We off in this place, catching vibes, sit back and we blaze in the sky like I'm out of space. Natural high, light it up, light it up, light it up, light it up.
What's going on, cigar world? What's going on, cigar enthusiasts? This is Jack, the cigar enthusiast, and I am back with another banger. Hey, man, I hope everybody is doing well. Man, I've been missing you guys. I want to let you guys know that I have been missing you. I had we had the grand opening, which if you missed that event, you missed an amazing event. I must tell you, it went off with a smooth bang. And then on top of that, when we had Mother's Day, and then we had some issues with planning and scheduling, so I went ahead and just took that first week off and then rolled into Mother's Day. But I'm back to be with you guys, man. How everything's been, man. Y'all already know what it is, man. Hit that comment box, and make sure you go ahead and drop your name. What's up? Shout out to my beautiful wife in the building. We're gonna go ahead and get this thing going, man. What's up, David? How you doing, brother? Hey, David, man, that barn looks really good, man. I don't know what you plan on doing with it, but that barn is amazing. Keep it up, man. I am really looking forward to those updates, man. Big Johnny just got done celebrate a year in the making of being a legend, man. Johnny, I can't believe it's only been a year, to be honest with you. Like JSU, if you're not part of the Johnny Smokes Uncut group on Facebook, if you call yourself a cigar connoisseur, you need to go ahead and join that group today. They just hit their 1 year anniversary as a group, and I think they're like almost 4,000 people. It's ridiculous. Johnny is a name. Johnny is a brand. Let that train go chugga chugga choo choo. All right. Hey, but anyway, man, if y'all new to the channel, man, y'all watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, turn that notification bell, give us a huge thumbs up. If you're watching on Facebook, don't be the only person to have this beautiful and wonderful information. Go ahead and press that share, that like, as well as create a watch party. You invite all your friends out to come celebrate with your boy. So today, man, we have, man, you know it, Johnny. Rima, you know it. Today, man, we have a special guest with us today, and I'm excited about this. I think right now in the world of, not only cigars, but, just everyday living, man, mental health is a real thing. Having a conscious mental health and understanding that mental health must be taken serious is really a top priority in most people's lives today. Of course, guys, I don't have a lighter, so give me a second. Lighter, please. All right, requesting my lighter, and this time it's gonna work, I promise. But today's in this time, man, mental health is a big thing, man. So I wanted to take a time to actually do a segment on mental health, but I don't want to do it like go see a counselor, go see a psychologist, let's do this, like go talk about your problem. No, what I'm saying is, for a lot of us cigar smokers, we are already, our mental health or the way we work out our problems is by smoking cigars. Most of the time we go to the cigar lounge, we may come in a mood, a disappointment, or anything like that. We go to the lounge, we pick up one of these beautiful things, and we sit back and just have our own smoke therapy. But smoke therapy is not always gonna get you to. Thank you, Candace. Shout out to Candace. Y'all haven't been to Dapper D's before, go come see Candace. Show your face, Candace.
Hey there.
All right.
How you doing?
All right, bye, Candace. I love Candace, for real. Yeah, y'all come by and see Candace. She's an awesome soul. But anyway, a lot of times we go out and we do our, smoke therapy in a cigar lounge, and that doesn't always cut it. Sometimes our mental health is caught so deep into childhood traumas and different things of that nature. Well, at the end of the day, I'm not a psychiatrist. Without further ado, let's introduce our guest of the hour. Coming from Jacksonville, Florida, she is a licensed mental health counselor introducing to the virtual smoke deck, Melissa Brown. Hey, Melissa, how's everything going?
Hi, how's it going?
It is going great. Thank you so much for coming on and being a guest of honor on the virtual smoke deck. We are really enthusiastic to have you and really thankful for the opportunity and you taking the time out to talk with us and our viewership.
Oh, that's no problem at all. Mental health is my passion, so I can talk about it every day, all day.
Absolutely. And it's something that I think, so many people run away from because they're so scared to pull out those skeletons in their closet and unpack those, as Charlemagne says on the Breakfast Club every morning.
Yeah.
Do you tell your clients that we need to unpack this too?
I may not necessarily use that exact terminology to use an example of like peeling back the layers of an onion. And cooked, I think, with onions before, and they have many layers to them, and we have layers to ourselves as well. So I like to use that analogy, peeling back the layers of onion. I
like when Charlemagne said, because Charlemagne, like, it may be lies, I don't know, maybe his counselor really do say that, but at the end of the day, we all need to peel back the onion, unpack our suitcase, unpack our trauma, pull out the skeleton, whatever analogy you want, man. We gotta talk about it. It has to be a topic that we talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, Melissa, for those that don't know you, go ahead and give us a brief synopsis of yourself and what you do, and I mean, whatever you want to tell the viewership.
So I have been working as a mental health counselor now for 9 years. So I'm almost at the decade mark. I began working in substance abuse, but I've worked with all populations of people, all mental health disorders. And by populations, I mean children, adults, women. I've worked in a middle school. Doing group counseling with middle schoolers, and I currently have a private practice I've had for 4 years now. Well, actually, it'll be 4 years on June 1st. So in a couple weeks. And I currently work with people out of the community, individuals from the community, and I work with a lot of veterans as well.
Good. Well, I mean, working with veterans can be fun. I think it's safe to say that, right?
Yeah. I mean, everyone is fun. A lot of times people will ask, like, when I tell them what I do, they're like, oh my gosh, like that must be so stressful. I couldn't do it. But when you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work. It just feels like your purpose,
Yeah.
And I mean, and this is kind of something I know we were talking about ahead of time that we want to touch on, how the pandemic has affected people and their mental health. To be specific, I think a lot of people, when the pandemic and the lockdown occurred, it forced a lot of people to have to stop and look at themselves and, have to start to unpack, or maybe they didn't want to unpack, but they were kind of like forced to have to do so, because a lot of times people are just like running away from the things that are truly affecting them and things that they need to, deal with. But the pandemic kind of like, made that nearly impossible. So people had to also learn how to cope with different issues because they couldn't run anymore, or maybe even engage in certain activities that they were previously engaging in to cope with those issues. They had to, find other new ways to cope. Yeah. And that's something that I do as well. I make sure I engage in lots of self-care and have healthy coping activities that I keep at my disposal.
Absolutely. Well, not jumping too far ahead, because we're going to get back to that topic for sure. It's funny that you talked about using, you used to be a counselor for substance abuse. So just FYI for all my viewers and everybody that's going to watch this later, cigars is not a substance that you can abuse, right?
That's honestly not something I even thought of. I have never come across that. And I worked in substance abuse for a while. No one ever had an addiction to substance abuse. And to my knowledge, there is no diet, like in our we have basically a book of all the mental health disorders. There's
Uh-huh.
no addiction to cigars.
Hey, well, FYI, everybody, y'all are clear. Smoke as many cigars as you want. It's fine. If you need them, go to dapperdcigars.com. Anyway.
Yeah.
Hey, so Melissa, kind of just, getting into like more of the background thing. You talked about passion. It's like being something that you didn't necessarily, you don't see as a job. You love helping people. What made you, what helped develop this passion, and when did you realize that this is what your calling is?
I feel as if I've always, like, it's just been a part of me my entire life. Like, I tell people about, it's not that good of it wasn't that good of a situation that occurred, but when I was a child, I empathize with animals a lot. And I actually was bitten by one of my cousin's dogs because I was empathizing with the dog and noticed that no one had fed him. And so then I tried to feed him and then he attacked me. I provoked him.
It's not funny.
So I've always just been very aware of other people's experiences. Like, as a friend, growing up as a friend, my friends always felt as if they could come and talk to me about anything, and they always express appreciation for being able to communicate with me. And then when I was in high school, I took a intro to psychology class, and I was really confused about I would always get an A on the test. And then my classmates would be struggling. And I went to a college preparatory school. So I went to school with a bunch of smart kids. So I didn't understand why they were struggling so much with psychology. And for me, it just felt like second nature. And I was like, oh, okay, well then maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And then when I went to college, I met with a career counselor, and she pretty much sealed the deal for me. Like, she had me convinced that, like, okay, I could do this, I could make this into a career, and that I would enjoy doing it.
Yeah. And that's one thing I harp on here on the Virtual Smoke, that a lot of people want to get into the industry because they have a hobby, and it's different from having a hobby and wanting to help people, or having a hobby and wanting to smoke cigars, to actually having a passion for it. Mm-hmm. Because when you have a passion, the passion would drive you to limits that you would never had, surpassed if it was just a hobby. When that roadblock came, it would just hit you in the face, and you go on with it. And I think, like any occupation, especially when you're doing, something dealing with people, I think we all should probably have a psychology class or some sociology class. That way you can understand people a little bit better, and understand when you get a disgruntled customer, and I'm talking from my perspective, when you get a disgruntled customer, instead of just being like, oh, they must be in a bad mood. Well, let's try to figure out why they're in a bad mood. Let's try to do something that makes them, feel good for that day. So I guess the biggest thing is, for us people in a retail situation, and obviously people, you can never peel back anybody's onion in a 2-minute conversation, 5-minute, 20-minute conversation. What is the best way to try to kind of get somebody that's probably in a bad mood or tense or something like that because they've been through a situation that nobody really knows about? How do we work that situation in a way that gets it into a part where you just kind of have you can better grasp with them?
Mm-hmm. I would say you want to always start with compassion, and keep that in the back of your mind. You don't know what bad news a person could have received before they walked into your establishment. So a lot of times I found that people want to feel heard. And once they feel as if they have been heard, then that kind of like, a lot of times that's like 90% of what they need in that moment, and that will help de-escalate the situation. So I know when I've worked in I still work kind of in customer service, but when I worked in customer service, like a cashier type job, I would ask the person, what is it that you would like for me to do? How can I fix this situation? How can I make things better? how what would be beneficial for you in this situation. And once you ask those types of questions, and then the person feels like, okay, they care, they hear what I'm saying, you know, then a lot of times they'll be fine with just an apology. You know, they'll begin to have compassion for your business as well, because then they will see, okay, this is just a human, this is a person, people make mistakes, so if something went wrong, they didn't intend to, and then they will also be a lot more likely to return as well, you know, because they feel cared for.
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing that a lot of people subconsciously don't realize that they want. You know, the fact of being, you know, feeling cared for, you know, feeling close, or having a friend when they don't feel like they really have one. I think that's what really separates businesses in a sense. So, you know, kind of rolling into the first part of your conversation during the introduction, that you kind of veered off on the tracks a little bit, but but it's all good. You know, how, you know, as a licensed mental health professional, how did you see what was like the difference, or what was the game changer that the pandemic brought to, you know, mental health, and, you know, the psychological mannerisms that people tend to just push down in their suitcase?
There were so many different factors at play. Like I touched on earlier, everything pretty much came to a halt. So a lot of thoughts or events or traumas that have occurred to people in their past, they had to now face those things. If you were living with people or are living with people who you have issues with, now everybody's working from home, the kids are home, everybody's home. So there's no avoidance of one another. Now you have to confront those issues that you guys have, you know, been having probably for a while. In some other cases too, depending on, you know, your situation, some people didn't have family or individuals that they live with, so then they were isolated, they were completely alone. And then when we had events like police brutality, I'm pretty sure everyone saw, like, yeah, when typically when events involving police brutality occur, there is definitely a response. But I think everybody can agree that the response last year was like astronomical.
Intense.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, I think it's because everyone in the world, regardless if you were Black or not, were forced to pay attention. There was nothing else going on. Like I said, even I said people were working from home. Some people weren't working at all because a lot of people lost their jobs. So there really was like, you were forced to pay attention to those things and have to confront those things, which, especially being Black, that can be overwhelming. That can be a lot, you know, not being able to escape from it, because it was like everywhere. It was like the only topic being discussed. And then we have, you know, the issue that caused the pandemic to begin with, from I think, no, I'm trying to recall if someone told me something like this has occurred in history. If it has, I don't believe it occurred, in any of our lifetimes. So that was that in itself, and it still is, you know, going on.
Well, they said Ebola was a thing. They like, I guess that spread it. I had no clue that Ebola had spread the way it spread when it spread it.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I mean, you're just, but so that was like, it was very scary for a lot of us. No one really had answers. We were hearing different things every day, you know, and it was just a bunch of question marks. And like I said, we still have some of those question marks, even though things have gotten a little bit better. So it was a lot. And during that time, I know me and other my colleagues, other professionals who I communicate with, were being like bombarded by requests and referrals for mental health counseling. I started seeing advertisements, like I know there's this company called BetterHelp. I think is what they're called, betterhelp.com, where they'll connect you with a counselor, and you can do like virtual, or like they have like several different options. So it was like being advertised, and that was the first time I had ever seen like that type of like marketing for mental health services. you know, like I'll be on YouTube and maybe some of your viewers have seen it. I'll be on YouTube and see advertisements for some YouTubers that I am subscribed to. They were getting receiving sponsorships for, and I was like, whoa, I've never seen anything like this before. You know, usually mental health is on like the hush hush. Nobody wants to talk it. You know, there's been a lot of stigma, which is also a reason why I wanted to get into mental health work, is because of the stigma, the huge stigma that has been associated with it for so long, that, you know, you're crazy, you're weak, you must not have enough faith, things of those nature, or you're making it up, you're just doing it for attention. So to see how things were before I began working in the field, and now seeing advertisements for counselors, you know, just like TV and social media, is like, whoa, that's a big difference. But it also said a lot about the needs of everyone at that time, and still going on. Okay, yes, BetterHelp. I see the comment.
So I have a question. You know, kind of getting onto stigma, right? Why do you think mental health was one of those things that for so long it was just pushed away, and like, hey, like it was like weakness? Like, why do you think these stigmas about mental health is even a thing?
I think it's because you cannot see it. And so people sometimes feel as if you can't see something, then that means it's not real. Like it doesn't exist. Like, you know, people joke a lot about social media. If I don't post something on social media, people think it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Like, no, you guys, like it's still happening. So yeah, I think because like physical health, like if you break your arm, we can see our physical body. So if you break your arm, you can see a broken arm. If you're bleeding, you see the blood. But mental health issues, you can't see those symptoms occurring. I guess I would say one symptom you can see physically is crying. But mental health disorders affect everyone differently as well. So some people can be severely depressed, chronically severely depressed, and you would never know. Like they're always smiling, laughing, they go to work, they take care of their kids, they're, you know, a pillar in their community, they're doing everything across the board, and you would never know. So I think it's like the invisibility of mental health that causes, you know, those stigmas. And I believe that's where it began. Like, and what people can't see, they can't understand.
So I guess, you know, for me, I think when I think of the stigmas behind mental health, I don't think somebody that you just meet off the side of the street is going to kind of judge, you know, you for mental health. I think, you know, the stigma was really created in a more of an intimate or immediate family relation. Is that something to agree on?
Yeah, and I would say especially in the Black community, nobody talked about mental health. If you had any type of issue, you pray about it. You go to church and you pray. And if you still were troubled in any type of way, then it would mean that you lacked faith, you didn't believe in God, and you would definitely receive repercussion from your family and church because of that. So I would definitely say that is a key reason why there is so much stigma associated with mental health.
I mean, kind of just looking at it from both sides, you know, and this, I don't want to say, you know, this is just a Black thing or a white thing or a person thing. I believe this is a culture thing. I think it deals, you know, you deal with those, I don't even know what they call it. What's the Gen X? No, Gen X is, that's our parents, right? Gen X?
No, I thought we were Gen X. No, I think they're
we millennials, Gen X and millennials. But then it's whatever those people that's around 50, 60, 70 years old is, whatever you want to call them, the older people, the elder people. But I think it was one of those things. It's like, I don't think, you know, talking about issues, whether white, black, purple, pink, was a thing. You know, I think for most families, it was something where you just fought through it. You just make it happen. Because I grew up. I have a white mother, so I grew up, understanding, my mental health from it. From I guess a quote unquote right perspective. And that wasn't a good perspective either. You know what I mean? So it was. I think mental health goes a little bit further and beyond. The reason I asked that question, do I think it's safe to say that the stigma has really started with your immediate family? Because those are the people that's going to say, oh, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing this, there's nothing that. But at the end of the day, those should be the same people that understand, oh, yes, I did this, I did that. So is it safe to say the stigma was really created off of unawareness of the trauma that was caused by the people that inflicted the trauma or created it?
Yeah, and I would say the stigma is also created from, and I think this is what you're
baby
basically
boomers
not having the luxury of talking about your mental health. Like you said, you're constantly fighting, you're constantly just trying to make sure food is on the table, bills are paid, trying to keep your job. Talking about how you feel was kind of like at the bottom of the list. You were trying to make sure you were still breathing, like you were actually alive. So because and that could, you could take that way back, and after generation of, you need to be focused on paying bills and staying alive,
going to school and doing this, and
then when current we do have some ways to go, but things are better, and now when we talk to our elders or baby boomers about mental health, they're like, what? Like, oh no, you don't have time for that. But it's like, oh no, we do. We talk about those things, like we are no longer struggling to survive anymore. So now we can talk about and care for other parts of ourselves outside of the basic essentials.
Now, I don't know if the statistic is true, but it makes sense to me. So anybody is more than welcome to fact check me and put it in the comment box, but I don't know. But I really believe that back in the day, if you think about it, if you think about majority of the serial killers, right? Now, mind you, there are serial killers that is living in this generation. But you think about majority of the serial killers, they had some type of mental health issue that started in their household with their immediate family that never got fixed. Or people that is known for raping people, is started somewhere in their household where they probably got raped or seen somebody get raped or something of that nature, which they became a serial rapist. I think in today's society, what the fact of the matter is, we understand that. Now we're not going to sit here and give you a reason or excuse to why you're this way. I think right now at this point in time, if we see that, there is more problems than what we need to worry about as far as the mental health. What I'm saying is, when you have those type of things in today's society, there is help. So the fact of the matter that you're crying out and saying, oh, it was a mental issue, you can turn any corner and see a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a mental health counselor or a counselor of any sort. So go to a mental ward. Those are popping up like no other.
Your hospital, there are mental health departments in every hospital.
But I don't know. But was that a thing in the 60s? Was that a thing in the 70s? Was it a thing in the 80s?
Well, and your question is as far as people not having the resources?
Yeah.
I would definitely say just along the lines of, because stigma has been reduced, more people are also going into the field, if that makes sense. Like a lot of mental health professionals back in the day would have been stigmatized as well, so not many people were wanting to seek out a career where there was stigma associated with that career, if that makes sense. So there are definitely, it's a growing field. There are so many more resources and professionals available, and also funding. Funding is a big issue. If mental health was seen as something that people made up and wasn't real, then why would we allocate dollars to treat mental health if we felt like it wasn't a necessary thing?
You know, Grey Wolf is a loyal follower. Hey, Grey Wolf, welcome to the Virtual Smoke Day, my brother. I appreciate you. He says, you know, there's always been a stigma, and there still is. What is your comment to that? Do you feel like the stigma is still a stigma, obviously? But I feel like, you know, it's enough people that talk about it now that it kind of normalizes it a little bit, to a fact that, you know, for some apparent reason, you know, society holds celebrities, people in higher tax brackets, you know, like God, you know what I mean? And the more celebrity, you have a lot more celebrities in today's society talking about mental health. Do you feel that has helped with, you know, fading away the stigma for that matter?
It, absolutely. And I love it because celebrities do have power. Like you say, Charlemagne, he talks about mental health very often. I don't listen to the Breakfast Club every day, but I follow him on Instagram, and I see him posting about mental health like every day, sometimes a few times a day. So that's like very, very helpful. And I know even J. Cole, his last album, KOD, he just dropped the album like Friday, right? I said, he just dropped the album. Yeah. So his previous album. Yeah. Did I not say that? His previous album? Did I not say that? Yeah, his previous album, KOD, he talked about mental health, several of his songs. And even on his current album, he mentions mental health. So I like, when I listened to KOD and I saw how much he was talking about mental health, like, he's already my favorite rapper, and that just made me like him even more. Yeah, and you know, I think that's part of the help, you know, that people are getting more help. But I also think people are a lot more receptive to getting help. You know, a lot of people, you know, sit back and, I mean, believe it or not, for people watching, I know you probably know this. Believe it or not, a lot of the things that we act on as an adult is 9 times out of 10 the things we hated as a child, or things that happened to us as a child. So, for instance, like, just speaking of from a perspective of what I know, if you ever talk to somebody that smokes cigars and ask them what got them into it, they will always say their grandfather or their dad or their mother or somebody. It's always somebody they seen, you know, doing something which got them into the hobby. Same concept when it comes to mental health, right? Or things that we go through. People that have pornography addictions, 9 times out of 10, they've seen somebody that had pornography addiction. Some people that are, you know, sexual predators, seen somebody or know somebody or was a victim to sexual predation, whatever the word is. But my point is, I think it all starts with somebody. And I think, you know, right now, especially as a parent of 3 daughters, you know, me and my wife, we talk very, very heavily on, you know, giving our kids a voice, you know, and making sure that we're not normalizing the fact that, you know, she posted something today or shared something today, you know, we're not making our kids, you know, talk to people if they don't want to talk. You know, we're not making them hug people if they don't want to hug. Like, that is not what we do. And I think that's a lot of the things that set up our children. Absolutely. Or better yet, the trauma that a lot of people tend to go through. It's so many people out here dealing with rape. There's so many people out here dealing with addiction problem. There's so many people out here dealing with, you know, lack of faith problems. And it's because of the things that we seen growing up that we hated. And now we in turn deal with it on a more of a adult life. So I guess my next question kind of goes into this. How do people, what is the best mannerism to help people start to really unpack their suitcase and get to a point where they can start facing those things and not falling victim to them anymore? Like, what would be the first step in that direction?
Yes. I mean, because obviously not everybody's going to pick up the phone and say, hey, I need to see a counselor. You know, I know somebody very close to me. You know, I can sit here and tell them, hey, you need to go see a counselor. And they're like, ain't nothing wrong with me. But it's clearly something wrong with you. So You know, like what is that first step to help them, you know, kind of say, maybe I need to talk to somebody about the trauma and the stuff that I went through in my childhood?
Yes, I would say increasing their self-awareness, maybe through journaling. I think it's good for all of us to have some level of self-reflection, whether that's at the end of the day, the end of the week, once a month, and identifying areas of improvement, because sometimes that can be very difficult in itself. And I mean, I would like to say, oh, you know, just call a counselor, but that can be intimidating for people. But I would like to also state that if you do feel as if, okay, you want to see a counselor or you want the help of a counselor, you know, assist you with exploring and increasing your self-awareness, you don't have to just dive into childhood or dive into like really heavy, deep issues. You can keep it kind of surfacey, you know, to increase your level of comfort with even like talking about yourself and your issues. But I think, yes, just taking some time out to self-reflect, maybe purchasing a self-help book could be a good start. Or if you have like a family or a friend who you feel as if you can talk to, maybe having a conversation with them. If you are involved in a church, having a conversation with your pastor. But anything that will allow you to increase your self-awareness, I think would be a good first step.
Yeah. So for those people that really understands the importance of it, or for the people that don't really understand the importance of it, and they say it is what it is, it happened, life goes on and stuff like that, what would you say to those people?
People who say things that occurred to them in their past are not currently affecting them, I would ask them, if they believe they healed from those things, what did they do to heal themselves from those things? Because more than likely they haven't done anything, so they wouldn't have an answer for that question, you know, because you don't just sweep things under the rug or just not think about them and then think that you've done enough, like, you know, and now you're good to go. So I would ask them that question. Well, what have you done? Maybe they have done some work, you know, but more than likely they haven't done any work. And that will hopefully get them to start thinking about, well, if I haven't done any work, then I probably haven't healed from those things. So how could those things be affecting me today?
Yeah, that was a good answer. I like that one. So what is the first, you say one of the main opening, you talked about self-healing being one of your focal points. What is like the first step to self-healing? I know you said, you know, getting books and different things of that nature, but, you know, I'm talking the first step outside of just go read about it and it's going to help you. What, like, when people have issues, what is the first thing you tell them to do that's on the road of self-healing?
The awareness, being honest with yourself. That, and I know it sounds really simple, but that can be a lot. Being honest with yourself, being honest about the state of your life, being honest about your relationships, how you interact with others, being honest about your physical health, because your physical health can tell you a lot about your mental health as well. How are you caring for yourself physically? Are there some areas that need attention you need work on? And if you haven't been working on those areas, then, you know, what's that about? You know, how's your sleep? Because our mental health affects the way, you know, our quality of sleep, how much sleep we receive, nightmares. So being honest about all parts of your life, I feel is the first step, and that leads to self-awareness.
Yeah. And, you know, I think that's key. Is just being honest with yourself. You know, really getting to the point where you're looking at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I mean, the A, I'm fucked up, or B, I'm great. But 9 times out of 10, not everybody can look in that mirror. I don't care who you are. I don't care how much money you got. I don't care what problems you deal with and what problems you don't deal with. at the end of the day, everybody can look in the mirror and say either I'm fucked up, or B, I'm great. And I think that's one of the main things that we have to look at is how can we sit here and say and be honest with ourselves and honestly say that we're great. What does great define? What is great? So, I want to get into a situation because I think this, me personally, I don't know, but I'm guessing. I think those childhood traumas affect us so much more than we can think of. How from a professional standpoint, how much does that actually affect our mental health, and what is the negatives if we don't understand those traumas and come to grasp with them?
I would say your childhood is like your foundation. A lot of times when we think about our child self, we think about that person as being a separate person from ourselves and not being a part of us, living inside of us. The only thing that has occurred is just time has went by, years have gone by. We've, our body, we've got taller, we've matured physically, we look different, but it's the same brain. So those same experiences that were programmed and logged into the brain of that child is still inside of the skull of your head. So it's the same person, but we tend to separate ourselves from that person, that child version of ourselves. So understanding that that's your foundation, that's where you learn everything about the world. Your parents, all those experiences taught you how to interact with people, what to expect from people, what to expect from yourself. That's when self-esteem building occurred. That's when you were taught what is love, how to love, what does it mean to love myself? Or maybe you weren't taught these things at all. You were taught finances. How do you manage money? How do you not manage money? Different values, and ethics. All of those things were instilled into you as a child. So we go about living our adult lives based upon everything that we learned as children. So that's how it affects your adult life. If you as a child, like we've been talking about, if no one communicated about feelings and emotions and thoughts, if your parents weren't asking you genuinely want to know how was your day, how are you feeling about our relationship, do you want us to spend more time together, is there something I can do for you as a parent that will make you feel more loved or hurt? If that wasn't happening as an adult, you're not going to do that with your children. If like I said, that can apply to anything in your childhood experience. If you had inappropriate relationships or adults had inappropriate relationships with you, then those boundaries were never learned, and maybe you would have inappropriate relationships with children yourself when you become an adult. And we see that happening often, where we learn that child predators were victimized themselves as children.
I felt that one a lot more because I just look at my mental health and the things that I went through as a child, and those was comments, and I seen my wife commented and said that people don't ask those questions. Why do you feel people don't ask those questions?
And again, with the stigma associated with mental health, people don't talk about mental health, and it scares them, or they don't even know to ask those questions, if that makes sense. Like even in school, when we're kids, we're taught all about physical health and what to do to take care of ourselves physically. Eat your fruits and your vegetables, get exercise, go to the doctor, they even have sex education, but nobody ever there was never a class that said, oh, this is how you should communicate with people. This is how you should love yourself and love other people. So how can our parents ask those questions if they weren't even taught to ask those questions? Like not even just school, but their parents didn't teach them to ask those questions as well.
That is a thing right there. And I think that's a whole different conversation. I don't want to go down that route, but I feel like it'll be a great conversation for maybe a book or something like that. Because at the end of the day, it's understanding. It's like pretty much understanding parenting 101. A lot of people say, parenting doesn't come in a book form, and it doesn't. You have to adjust to life, and you have to adjust to the things that happen. But then my girl Susie from Lit Torch mentioned, some parents taught us how to survive, not to feel or love. What does that say about the parents?
They were doing the best they could. Like you said, there is no handbook, so they cannot give what they do not have. So if they're in their childhood, if they were just having to survive, which if you would talk to like your parents or your grandparents, or find out stories about your great grandparents, if they aren't still alive, you will see they had rough lives. So they didn't even know about those things, or like I said earlier, had the luxury to, even after a long day, maybe working 20-hour work shift, how do I feel? They, there was no time, no room for that. They were, okay, go to sleep, get back up, right back at it, So parents can't give what they don't already have.
So how does parents that, to this day probably look at themselves and after this segment and be like, damn, that she was talking about me, or damn, they was talking about me. How do they go about learning those tools? As Susie said, being equipped with those tools to, be able to provide that type of, love and care for their children, as well as themselves.
Well, like we said earlier, there are so many more resources these days. So there are some books that do talk about parenting. So you can read books. You can just start by talking to your children. If and even if they're small, we don't give kids enough credit. Ask your kids how they feel. What is it? Like I said earlier, what are some things that they need? What are some things that they would like? You will be very surprised to hear what some children's answers may be. So I would say that, start with your own children, read some books. YouTube. I love YouTube. It's a credible resource. Search some videos. There are plenty of videos out there that talk about mental health and parenting. And research that has been done on it. Educate yourselves.
Yeah. So I guess the next thing, right, is understanding the road of, now we're here, now we're understanding, we understand this, we need to get more in tune with our children and all that. What would be the best way for an adult that don't have children, but has mental health issues, don't have the resources to, go out and, find a counselor to talk about it, don't have the means to go really focus on, self-care. What is some free opportunities out there that, we may take for granted that can help us with our mental health and, kind of start in the honesty process with ourselves?
Okay, so free resources, you're dealing with mental health issues, just you yourself.
Yeah.
And you're wanting to start somewhere. Again, I would say the library is a free resource. Tons of books there that you can check out for free, so that you can start to educate yourself on mental health, or even hopping on a computer and doing like a quick search about mental health, typing in some of the issues you're noticing that you're dealing with, and then see what pop up, like the symptoms that you're dealing with, and seeing what pops up, and then you can kind of go from there. I think that would be like a good starting place, and you can get a lot done just from that. And then when you hopefully are granted with the opportunity to work with someone, you'll have already, something to bring to the table. You'll already have been able to at least identify some things. Talking about churches earlier, join like support groups. Group work can be so beneficial. Even if no one attending the group is a mental health professional, getting that feedback and that that outside perspective from other people, especially in a group counseling or support group setting. Those are people who generally they want help, they want to help other people, it can be a really great resource as well.
One thing that helped me, through all my trials and tribulations that I faced, growing up, and then kind of just hitting them head on, is obviously talking to somebody. But the biggest thing too is, finding time to really reflect on yourself. So many times people that is just by themselves and maybe not married or just single, they look at things like, sex and, relationships and different things of that nature that they can consume their time with, instead of focusing on the time that it takes to really get themselves together. I hear it all the time that, what's up, Ryan? I hear so many times that, people say, well, when I get out this relationship, I'm gonna just focus on me. But what's stopping you from focusing on you now? Having that alone time, going to smoke a cigar, having a vice. I got several vices. I just felt, well, I didn't fall in love, but I just got reacquainted with my third vice, which is, my first one is cigars, my second one is fishing, my third one is riding my motorcycle. When I can do all of those at one time, I'm a happy freaking camper. And I think that goes into play of knowing yourself and knowing what do you have to come with, because a lot of those things kind of helps with the reacclimation of the mind to focus on those things. Even simplistic things like walking on the beach, taking a walk in a park, putting your phone down for a little bit and just focusing on you helps you bring those things to fruition. I mean, great with Jesus Christ, man. You gave us a paragraph, didn't you? The past does not equal the future. We need to work on being a better version of ourselves each day. Listen to yourself and give yourself credit for every accomplishment. Understand everyone has issues. One key is just do want to fix the potholes right before the first time and wait until it eats the semi truck. Yeah, that was deep, brother. But I think it goes like Great Wolf was saying. It just goes into commending yourself for those things that you're doing, but also understanding that you have trauma and we need to heal from that trauma. Mm-hmm. We need to go do things that helps us self-reflect on that trauma. And I think that's a lot of what I see in not only the cigar community, but also in my parenting tactic and in my relationship with my parent. I said parent. My relationship with my parent. And just being able to address those things in a mannerism that we know, but we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be.
Yeah. I agree with all of that wholeheartedly. You have to be honest and identifying what's normal and what's not normal. Sometimes we feel like it's normal to always be angry because you've been angry your whole life.
Yeah, come on.
And then realizing that, like, no, it's not normal to always be angry or to be like quick to react to situations, especially if they're with violence. I know, like, I had anger issues as a child, and I always just described it that way. Oh, I just have anger issues. But now, as an adult with mental health education, I realized I didn't have anger issues. I had a lot of other stuff going on that was just presenting itself as anger because that was the safest way for me to express myself, if that makes sense. It's the most socially acceptable way to express yourself too, with anger, especially if you're a man.
Yeah.
So yeah, that reflection, sitting back, and I love what you said about disconnecting, cutting off the phone, cutting off the TV, and just sitting with yourself and seeing what comes up.
Sean just mentioned something that I read it and it really kind of stuck out to me. And Sean, I don't want you to feel like, hey, we're putting you out there or anything of that nature. But he made a comment, very true. I'm going through a storm right now, finding what I like while being married with kids. And I think, and this is just me, but I want you to dissect this too. From my perspective, I feel like the married with kids is what Sean may be focusing on versus getting to the point of separating yourself. I'm a firm believer in, in a marriage or, relationship, friendship, and anything. You're responsible for making yourself happy, and the other person's responsible for making themselves happy. And together, y'all bring happiness. And I think everybody should have a vice. And I think that's something that me and my wife has really figured out. Like, hey, when I smoke cigars, I just need my time. When I'm fishing, You know, I love you. You know, hey, how's your day? But I'm fishing. You know, like I just need my time to gather my thoughts. And Sean, I think that is something that you really should focus on and get it figured out soon. What's your thoughts on it, Melissa?
Yeah, yes, I agree. And it's similar to what I was saying earlier about when we're kids and we become adults, we think we're just two different people. You as a single person without children, when you become married with children, you don't become a different person. You're still that same person. So you need to honor your interests, honor your needs and your wants. And the more happier and whole you are as an individual, that will just be like a trickle effect to you've been a husband, you've been a father, even outside of that, you've been a friend, you know. So it's very important to remember that you were here and existed on earth, and you know, you have your own brain aside from being married with children, you know. And then one day, especially with the kids, well, hopefully you stay married for the rest of your life, but especially with children, your children are going to grow up. They're going to fly. They're going to have their own lives, you know? So what you won't even you'll be a parent for the rest of your life, but not even in the same capacity, you know? And then we know a lot of times that's when marriages fall apart, when the children get older and leave the nest, because the parents have just been so focused on like the kids and being together for the kids and everything about the kids. And then when the kids leave, it's like, oh, I don't even know you, you know, like everything stops and it's like, oh, hey, we're married, you know? And then problems can arise from that.
Yeah. And absolutely. I think personally, like I said, you know, finding that vice is everything. Everybody should have a vice. Everybody should have somebody to talk to, and not everybody is a good ear to, not everybody is a good person to talk to. You have to weigh the difference. Not everybody has the best interest. You know, honestly, a lot of people are like, I don't like talking to strangers. Honestly, your best advice is probably going to come from a stranger.
As far as like a counselor,
counseling, anything, a small group or, a Facebook group or what Susie spoke about. I think that's kind of where you get your best thing, but it also teaches you one thing, and it's called vulnerability. And until you have vulnerability, you can't fix any issues, but go ahead.
Yes, being vulnerable. You most definitely have to be vulnerable. And I think that's where you get the best feedback, because those people don't know you. So they don't have biases towards you. They they're just, they just see what's in front of them and then they go off that, as opposed to family and friends. They have history with you. They also are invested in a relationship, because changes you make within yourself is also going to affect them. But absolutely. I always tell my clients, like, it's easy for me because y'all leave, I leave. Like, you're not a part of my life. I'm not a part of your life. So I don't feel hesitant to not tell you the truth or to tell you what's in front of me, or I don't feel compelled to give you biased feedback, because I know I need to benefit from it some way, somehow. I know a lot of people will say like, oh, you tell clients things because you want them to keep coming back, and that's how you get paid. It's a job. But trust me, there are plenty of people out here who need help. I if I lose a client, or if any therapist lose a client, or any professional lose a client, there are so many other people right behind them, So that's not really an issue as people try to make it out to be. I think people say that just to give themselves a reason to not get help, if that makes sense. Because we don't say that about doctors. We don't say, oh, my stomach's hurting so bad, I feel like I'm about to, fall over, but I don't want to go to the doctor because he's not going to try to actually help me because he wants me to keep coming back,
Yeah. So as we wrap it up, because I respect your time, and again, I know you have stuff going on, so I'm not going to hold you up. One question I want to know is, everybody, if you haven't watched it, but most people have watched Why Did I Get Married? And Janet Jackson played the psychologist, or the counselor in there for mental health, marital problems. And what we noticed that at the end of that movie, her marriage crumpled because she wasn't focusing on her mental health and things like that. How does that, on a more of a counseling standpoint, a professional standpoint, how are you able to focus on your self-care, your self-awareness, your honesty with yourself, and your building of your mental health from the issues that you may have, experienced?
So how do I do that while simultaneously being a counselor?
Yeah.
So it is something that I have been working on my whole career. I mean, it's only been 9 years, but still, and I continue to work on it. Having boundaries are so important because I can, like I'm a natural helper, so I can tend to put myself in positions where I'm overly helping, and then there's no time left for me.
Yeah.
So I have to. It might sound kind of weird, but I have to remind myself to say no. Like I really have to do that because a lot of times my automatic reaction is to say yes because I want to, but then I end up with too much and not enough for me. And then also seeing a counselor myself, to make sure I'm taking care of I have somebody to give me my feedback about my personal issues. And being honest with myself, if I start to notice, I have like markers where I'll notice like, okay, I'm doing too much. Like my sleep isn't as well, or I'm like snapping more easily, or if a new week is beginning and I'm like, oh, I just don't feel like this week. That's not normal for me. So that's when I stop and ask myself, okay, Melissa, like we're noticing, like I'm talking to myself, we're noticing some things. What's going on? You need to take a step back and care for yourself.
Absolutely. Well, Melissa, we greatly appreciate your time and your effort that you put in. Obviously, I mean, people love the segment, man. I'm sure we're going to keep getting more comments as people watch. Gray Wolf is absolutely right. That's why virtual and long distance counseling is working. There's no fear of running to that person in the store. But I also think it's working because people are making themselves more vulnerable. I'm a pretty tough skinned guy. I think, once you get close to me, you understand, that, and you also understand that I'm a gentle giant. But I think vulnerability is not always a bad thing. And I think that's another stigma that we may seem as if it was a bad thing. Vulnerability, you can't be vulnerable, that's weakness, and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
But
Essential for life. There's actually a TED talk on vulnerability by Brene Brown, Brene, last name Brown. And I love it. She speaks on vulnerability and how vulnerability, like I said, it's essential for you to achieve the most optimal life possible for yourself. You have to put yourself out there. And if we keep not allow ourselves to be vulnerable, then we rob ourselves from all of the good things that could potentially happen to our lives.
So Melissa, hey, before we go ahead and wrap this up, man, give people some sources that they can go to help maybe find them a counselor within their area. Find some, some groups. I know you said church. I know you said Susie said Facebook, support groups and different things of that nature. But what are some more, I don't even know the word, but what are some resources that people can utilize? Yeah.
You can, Psychology Today is a good resource to find therapists. You can also reach out to your insurance company if you want to make sure your insurance company pays, and then ask them. They'll give you a list of individuals who are like in network for you. So that'll probably be a good start as well. Talking to your doctor, asking them, ask a friend, because you'll be surprised who is actually attending counseling. Like I said, the stigma is being erased. People think the only people that go to counseling are people whose lives are just like falling apart and they're like, clearly don't have things going, but that's not the case at all. In reality, the people who they seem to be functioning well, but we know that's not always an indicator. But people who, they seem to be very grounded, in tune with themselves, they may just be in counseling, and that's why they are the way they are. Kind of like if you see somebody physically in shape, they probably have a trainer or they go to a gym, So yeah, I would say those would be some good first steps. And then type in Google will bring up a lot of things for you.
Well, Melissa, we definitely appreciate your time, your effort. This has been a great show. I hope a lot of people learn things. As Great Wolf said, as Sean said, as Susie said, we have to bring you back. But I think it's a lot to unpack, and I think we gave some resources for people to, as a starting foundation, people that didn't really, see those things as, maybe that was an issue. I think we kind of brought that to the limelight. Here on the Virtual Smoke Den, man, you don't have a clue what we'll talk about. This is the Business and Cigars podcast, and not only that, but we're always about growing, helping people grow and different things that they can. And so we definitely appreciate you so much.
Problem.
So much. So without further ado, I know Melissa didn't want y'all to follow her, so.
It's just that currently I'm full.
Yeah, there you have it.
I'm full.
Do you have a something that they can throw out there to maybe follow some inspirational posts or do you have like a business Instagram or something like that?
Actually I don't have a business Instagram, but I can give you some Instagrams. I can give you the Instagram of one of my colleagues who makes excellent posts dealing with mental health. Her name is, you can find her on Instagram, Yasha Portier Counseling.
Okay,
her name is spelled NYASHA.
NYASHA.
And then her last name is Portier, POITIER. Like the
POIT what?
TIER.
ER. And that's on Instagram, right?
Yes, counseling.
Right.
Yes, she's amazing.
I can spell that one. Maybe. All right, man. Y'all go follow her. Y'all need some inspirational posts, man. That's a great way to do. I highly suggest, if you're scrolling on your phone on Instagram and Facebook anyway, put some things out there that'll pop up and give you motivation, man. Well, Melissa, we greatly appreciate your time. We greatly appreciate you coming through. One thing on the Virtual Smoke Deck as we wrap up, we do ask all of our guests to drop one gem. It could be about mental health. It could be about life. It could be about business. One gem that you feel is necessary that'll help people grow in their life and everything that they're doing. One gem. Can you hear me?
Oh, you're asking me.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking the audience.
No, you.
One thing that they can do to help them.
Yeah, it's just a gem. It doesn't have to be to help them. It could be anything to empower them. It could be anything to uplift them. It could be something that you live by. It doesn't matter. It's just a gem.
Ooh, okay, my brain is all over the place. Something that I live by.
A gem. Just think of it as a gem.
A gem is
something that is motivational. To be anything.
Well, something that I feel as if I've always lived by is focus on yourself. Focusing on yourself. I think we focus on other people way too much, and then that's where a lot of depression and anxiety comes into play, because then we start comparing, and that's natural to compare yourself. So like disconnecting and focusing on you and what you have going on can do a lot in itself right there, because I feel like social media to some extent is very helpful, but it has also been very damaging because people aren't focusing on themselves. Absolutely. So I am a firm believer in like looking, and then you said earlier, looking in the mirror. We say that as like hypothetically speaking, but I say you can actually do that. Like actually walk into your bathroom and look in the mirror and talk to yourself and be honest with yourself and it might sound weird, or it might sound like, oh, I can do that, but then when you do it, it's quite an experience.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Melissa, for your time. We appreciate it.
No problem.
You're welcome back on the Virtual Smoke Deck anytime you would like to spread another message. Melissa, have a great day. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye. And that's the biggest thing on the Virtual Smoke Deck, man. We're bringing diversity. We're bringing the topics that you probably won't see on a cigar, podcast or vlog or whatever you got coming up. And I think that really rolls us into, our next week. But my gem is, she said to focus on yourself. And I 100% and 20,000% agree with that. Focus on yourself is key. And I'm glad my wife just noted that, focus on yourself. But I think the first and foremost thing is also looking at yourself in that mirror. We're going to stick with that. Looking yourself in the mirror, and you have to be honest with yourself. You can lie to everybody else in this world, but you cannot lie to yourself. When you look at yourself in the mirror, you have to be able to say, I am the best version of me. And if you're not the best version of me and you're dealing with childhood traumas or whatever the case may be, then we need to self-reflect on what those things is stopping us from being the best version of us. Man, with that being said, I'm Jack, the cigar enthusiast, man. I hope you guys enjoyed this segment. We are back on track, baby. We coming back with some fire, man. We got Corey Jones. Corey Jones is a commercial banker of a local, for now, a local community bank here in Jacksonville, Florida. But they just been bought out by ViStar, and we're going to be talking to him about financing, commercial financing, business financing, just kind of developing those networks, man. And this is not to brag. I'm a very humble guy for anybody that don't know. If you don't know, ask somebody that knows me, and they would be able to tell you. I am big on networking, man. And when you are able to walk in a bank and the bank president knows your name, knows who you are, can say what's up, that's everything. And that is when you're developing resources. That is when you're developing a network, and that is when you're getting somewhere. So if you're looking to start a business, if you're looking to buy a house, if you're looking to buy a car, if you're looking to buy, just build banking relationships, man, that is what it's all about, man. So make sure y'all tune in next Sunday at 7:00 for an amazing segment. As you know, if you're new to this, we come out with bangers. With that being said, if you're new to the YouTube, go ahead and press the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, give us a huge thumbs up. If you're watching it on Facebook, don't be the only one to share this content or view this content, whatever the case may be. Go ahead and share the Virtual Smoke Deck. Also, go follow us on the Virtual Smoke Deck. Like us, go follow us at Dapper D Cigars on Facebook and Instagram for all the updating events that we have going on at Dapper D's. If you don't know and you're in the Jacksonville area, you don't really know too much about Dapper D's, there's a problem. You need to get on our social media. Go ahead and follow us so you can come to the next best thing. This Friday we have live music in here. Phonics Movement will be in, and we got a banger. We got some stuff we're about to throw in there, man. We're trying to book something. I can't put it out yet, but hopefully I can solidify it next week for our next live music. But I think y'all will love that. With that being said, I'm Jack, the cigar enthusiast. I hope you guys have a great day. I'm gone.